Hello! I've not done one of these sit-down videos in a while. As you saw, you might have seen, I posted a reading vlog, which was really fun. But I decided that it was about time to do another monthly wrap-up. So, although I didn't read much in May, I hope you still enjoy my May monthly wrap-up. So I read 4 books, and some were 5 stars, one was so close to 5 stars, and then one I'm going to have a little bit of a rant review about, so let's get into it. So the first book I read this month was We Were Liars. My sister read this book, then my mom read this book, and they both absolutely adored it, so I had to pick it up, obviously, and it was really good. I rated it 4.5 stars. It was so close to 5 stars. I don't know, I just felt like I loved the writing style. I loved how it's a very unique book. There's not much description, but there is, and you're still there, and it's written in such a way that it's just short chapters, easy to read, and also the chapters, let's see, they're kind of down at this part of the page, which is kind of they just run into each other and they make you want to read more. So it was a pretty easy read. It was great to have. I actually read it a lot when my color guard was on the way to Wildwood, and it was really cool because this was set in the beach, and we were going to Wildwood's a beachy town, so that was great. And I don't want to say too much without giving much away, but basically We Were Liars, if you haven't heard about it, it's about a girl named Cadence. Some accident happened, but she can't remember what. She had memory loss with her on this island. Her family's very rich, and she has 3 other friends there. This boy named Gat, who she's basically in love with, and then her 2 cousins, Mirren and I forget the other guy's name. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. So, and she missed the summer at the place, and she doesn't know why, and apparently her mom kept on telling her what happened at first, but she kept forgetting it. So now she's back on the island, she's trying to figure out what happened, and there's some mysteries unraveled. So, the big plot twist, it made me cry. I was reading it one night, I was staying up late past my bedtime, finishing up this book, and I was crying so hard. It was such a good book. I don't know how to categorize it because it's not mystery and it's not a thriller, but it kind of is. I don't know, but I feel this is a really good book, and I'd recommend it to a lot of people, especially people who don't read a lot. This book got my mom back into reading, so yeah. This next book, I have some quarrels with. The New Girl. This is a young adult thriller that I borrowed from my sister because she read it and really liked it. So there are people who do like this, but this book, not for me. So it starts out with this girl. She goes to this school, and she's the new girl, obviously. And basically, this one girl who was in her room before her, got dragged out of school on the first day, and she says to this one professor, I know what you've done, blah, blah, blah. So, this girl's trying to figure that out, but, okay. So, it's an interesting premise. I feel the writing style is very young. It's a writing style that leans more towards middle grade, but this was very much of, more of a young adult plot. So that was the first thing, but I kept on reading. The main character kind of got on my nerves a little bit. There's also this site that says dirt on people, rumors kind of, and anyone can post there. So she had stuff posted about her, and it was a fine book. It was a fine book up until maybe the halfway mark. Okay, these are spoilers, so if you are planning on reading this book, please skip ahead a little bit. When basically the climax that should have come closer towards the end of the book happens, and that professor, she confronts him, and he comes after her, and then she kills him. And yes, it wasn't self-defense, but I don't like her. Then after that, the plot of it changed to kind of be her trying to cover up that she murdered him, and it's all in a way that felt kind of removed. Like, there were parts put in where she was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to sleep with now knowing that I murdered him? And then she'd like scream sing Billie Eilish and be like, let me focus on this instead. And it was very much like, it wasn't really delving into what does it mean that like I accidentally murdered this guy, you know? I felt like it could have been done better. I've read books where someone accidentally, specifically one book in general, but I can't say what book it is, or I will spoil it, where one girl accidentally, like, kills 3 of her friends, and the PTSD and everything in that, it seemed more real. It seemed like it went about it in a way better way, and just reading a book like that, and right up against to a book like this, I just did not like it at all. And also there was another review, again, this is a little bit of spoilers, where this guy she was dating ended up being, like, the person who murdered that one girl who was brought off at the beginning. Oh yeah, she ends up dead. And, like, his whole personality is a whole lie, but she tried to foreshadow it, but it wasn't foreshadowed good, and then he's trying to kill her, and she's trying to pin this murder on someone else, on this drug dealer, and I don't like that either. People trying to pin murders on people when they accidentally murder someone, that happened in a different book I read as well. It's very weird, and I didn't like that. I feel like you can have it where your main characters accidentally, like, kill someone, but then if they're trying to pin this murder on someone else, and they're like, oh no, but that guy's a bad person, he's a bad person, or she's a bad person, like, it doesn't matter, because they did bad things anyway. Yeah, but those bad things don't equate to murder. So, did not like this book. I think I gave it 2 stars. I might bring it down to 1.5, not for me at all. But luckily, this was the only bad book this month, because next I picked up a book that was unlike any other books I read before, Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and I absolutely loved this book so much. If you saw in the reading vlog, actually no, the reading vlog had me reading the second book, Starsight, but 5 stars. It was young adult sci-fi, and I've heard of Brandon Sanderson before. I feel like everyone in the reading community has heard of him. But, well, not everyone, but everyone in more of, like, the fantasy, sci-fi, like, maybe not as much sci-fi, but, like, I know he's known for his fantasy. And I've had 2 people who I'm friends with who love Brandon Sanderson. So I got these books, literally $2 at my library, $3 at my library. So, and I saw this was rated 4.5 stars, which I'm like, that is so high. I think it was the highest, like, rated book on my TBR, on my physical TBR. So I'm like, I have to pick this up. So I read that, hoping that since this book was actually the lowest rated book on my physical TBR, like the books I own, it was like 3 point something stars. And this one was the highest book on my TBR. So I decided to read each of them and do a little experiment for myself to see, like, can I trust Goodreads? Well, apparently I can, because the lowest rated book was my lowest rated book of the month, and then the highest rated book was a 5-star for me. I love this book. I don't normally read a lot of sci-fi, but it was so good. And I love the sci-fi. Like, I've read some sci-fi before that was, like, pretty good, but it's more of, like, the adult sci-fi where you're kind of jumping between thousands of years. The Foundation or whatever, I read that with my dad, like, a couple of years back, and I liked it, but I felt my mind drifting in a bunch of spots, and I like to follow one main character over her journey, or his journey. It doesn't have to be a girl, but... And I really enjoyed this with Spensa. That's the main character. So basically, this is about a girl named Spensa. She's stuck on her planet, I realize I've never said this planet's name out loud before. Detritus? Something like that. But with a bunch of humans. And basically, they're stuck underground in these caverns because there's these people called the Krell, and whenever they try to go out of their planet, the Krell will attack them. So Spensa's father, basically, like, he was part of the DDF, the Defiant Defense Force, which basically they have, like, starfighters. They're fighting the Krell. They're trying to, like, protect their planet. So basically, in one of the battles, it was said that when she was younger, that he was a coward and he, like, retreated and everything, and then someone else had to shoot him down on his own side. So Spensa is known as a coward, and all she wants to do is fly, be a pilot, but she can't because of that. But she ends up getting into flight school anyway, and although she's, like, separated from the others, she's not allowed to, like, live there. She has to sleep somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. Like, she still keeps going, and she still pushes through. And on the way, she uncovers secrets about what happened to her father, really. She creates bonds with people. She has so much character growth. And one of my favorite parts, she meets this spaceship with, like, a sentient AI robot in it named M-Bot, and I love M-Bot so much. At first I was like a little bit skeptical of him, but he grew on me so much. I love that robot. I literally, at the end of Starsight, I shed tears for that robot. No spoilers, but anyway, it was so good, and at the end, oh my gosh, it all just wrapped up so much. Everyone had character growth. I loved, like, even side characters. I loved, like, every single character. They all felt so real, and it was so good. And then this book, it's like kind of on her planet Detritus, but then Starsight, she goes out into space. Like, no spoilers for this, but basically she goes out into space and she starts meeting other aliens, other people. I can't really say much about that, but it was really cool to see, like, how the other, like, aliens lived, how they were different from humans, and she had even more character growth. I love, like, you can physically, like, see Spensa, like, slowly but surely, like, grow as a character, and it's not forced. It's not all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like this now. No, you can see her tangibly change, and that's so cool. Although this was 5 stars as well, I like the first book a tiny bit better, but I think they're both just such different books, and I think at first I like this book better because you see more of M-Bot. You have more of her interactions with the rest of her flight, Jorgen, Kimmelin, Rig, all those people, Arturo, Ned, and it's just so, like, fun to see her interact with everyone. There's also, like, a little bit of a slow burn romance between her and someone else, which is just, like, a very minimal subplot, but I really like that as well, because I love those little romance subplots where they're not the main focus at all, but they're, like, there in the background, and they're so good. Anyway, and you can see them even more in Starsight, and even though they're not physically in the same place, you can also, I think they also have little, like, interludes or whatever with Jorgen's point of view. Is that a spoiler? I don't think so, because right when he came on, I was like, this is going to be, like, enemies to lovers a little bit. Not really enemies, rivals to lovers. And yeah, I also thought it was really cool that they have little drawings in here, like with the different starships and, like, everything. Let me see if I can find them. I think they were at the back of this one. And so in the first book, they were kind of spread throughout. And then in the second book, I'm pretty sure they just put them all at the back. I was kind of sad they didn't have any new, like, drawings of different things, but yeah, here we are. I thought this is so cool to see all these. You can tell this is the bad guy ship. There's M-Bot right there. And also, like, this whole thing in the first book, with, like, little things in the first book that it's like, haha, that's funny, that's kind of just, like, a side thing, like, oh my gosh, she found a slug that she named Doom Slug, how funny. And then it's like, what? That was, like, important in this book? And, like, it all led to something? Like, nothing was not important. Everything was something small leading up, and you can see that, like, the sprinkles were put in here, and then it led up to here, and then at the end of the month, I started reading this book, Cytonic, the 3rd book, which also, I got this off of Amazon for $10, so this whole trilogy so far has only cost me $15? That's great! They're so good. Yeah, so I started reading this at the end of the month. Literally, I think I only got, like, 97 pages in. I got a lot more now. It's June 1st, and I read, like, 90 pages today already. But I am flying through this series, and it is so good. And I feel like, okay, so people who don't normally read sci-fi can definitely read this series. But I feel like you should like fantasy. You should like that world building. It's not like entirely world building, but I feel like there's some confusing aspects that I wasn't as confused as. Maybe it's from my physics background, maybe because I took physics classes. Maybe it's because I've read fantasy with like lots of world building before. But I feel like it's not an unmanageable amount of world building. And I also feel like sometimes you can't really read this in small spurts. You just have to sit down and like take in like 25 to 50 pages at least at a time, because if you're just going out and going in for a couple pages when you have time, it's kind of hard to get back into the world. But that's my only complaint. I absolutely loved these two books. Highly recommend. I kind of want to check out more of Brandon Sanderson now. I heard some of his other books are even better than these, which I don't know how, but his other books are adult. They're like adult fantasy or whatever, and I read a lot of young adult, so I'm not sure how that would be for me, but I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm almost 18, and I don't think it's like adult as in like, oh my gosh, like that's rated R or whatever. No, I think it's an adult, like it's not following characters who are teenagers. Like Spencer's 17 in here. She's my age, you know? I feel like it's following more characters who are adult, and then the world building is probably more complex in the magic systems. And I feel like that's why it's categorized as adult from what I've heard. I could be wrong. But, so I feel like I can handle that. Hopefully. We'll see. So I might pick up another one of Brandon Sanderson's books sometimes and see what he's like in the fantasy genre. So yeah, these are the 4 books I read for May. Not as much as normal, but I did have a lot of tests, projects. School is wrapping up. High school's over for me, which is crazy. But I loved the chances I did have to sit down and read, and except for this book, but I mean, 3 out of 4 of the books were amazing. I have 2 new 5-star reads. I have 1 4.5. So I think this is a pretty good reading month. And I can't wait for the summer when I have even more time to read. And stay tuned for my next video, because that's either going to be a reading vlog or it's going to be a summer reading list. So hopefully I'll be able to get out more videos now that it's summertime. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!